Here we are, the surprise guest.
Hi.
And we have another surprise guest coming.
Mark Johnson, is he around here somewhere?
The other surprise guest.
There he is, Commissioner, Superintendent, our state superintendent. There's Representative. Yeah, and there's Representative Horn. It's all mine.
So we have all sorts of surprises today, and I was able to announce this morning that you were surprise guest to talk about teacher perception this afternoon, and Superintendent Mark Johnson is going to be the surprise guest to follow. Good. So thank you, everybody. First, I want to introduce actually the audience, you to the audience,
okay,
and vice versa. I don't have to tell you who this is. This is President Spellings. But what I want to say is that normally we have what we call the Noah's Ark, the United Nations of Education stakeholders, in this conversation. But this year has been really special because we've had what we call the FIT leaders, the first in teaching leaders. They're all educators and former educators who are deeply committed to their profession. And I just want them to raise their hands. We are overwhelmed with great insights, and applause to all of you for all of your hard work. And over the course of the summer, they identified the qualities they want for their profession and the barriers. We've talked about this before. And one of the barriers is about the teaching, the perception of the profession. And so when I called President Spellings and asked her if she could please join us again this year, she was so gracious to be here last year as well, you didn't hesitate. And so I'd love for you to tell the audience why this matters to you.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this every year, and congratulations to you on your soon-to-be 5th anniversary of Leading Best NC. This is a terrific organization, and what I know for sure about being involved in education policy for many decades is that without a Best NC, without an invigorated external partner like you all, like Best NC is, it's hard to sustain and get traction on long-term efforts. And so thank you for starters. Well, teaching matters to me professionally and personally, and obviously we all can tell a story about a teacher in our life. That sounds trite, but it's also true. Professionally, we will be out of business as a university if we don't have highly capable teachers who are teaching that next generation of students, who will create what I call a college-going culture, and make sure that those individuals have the skills and talents and attributes necessary to be successful in post-secondary education, period. I mean, I can't think of anything more fundamental to our enterprise than making sure that the next generation that comes to us is capable of being successful. And obviously, our role in that, as the largest preparer of teachers in this state, is quite prominent. Raise your hand if you were educated at a UNC institution. Like I said, the majority of teachers, I'm sure this is probably a pretty representative sample, come from this university. And that's why it's so important and so fundamental to our effort that we get it right and we do right by those people who come through our doors.
That's great. It's great. It's important. When I talk with the FIT leaders, the word that they use is respect. I feel like everyone loves their teacher, but there is this sense of our teachers respected. As you travel the state, what are you hearing about the profession? Not teachers, we all love teachers, but what are you hearing about the profession?
That it's the hardest job ever, that people leave it because there are, while teachers and many of us who are involved in public life, feel that purpose, that commitment, the sorts of things that showed up on your survey. But with the economy that's thriving and booming, it's easy to find alternatives that maybe are better compensated and easier. And so those of us who have that passion for public service and love to nurture that next generation of individuals have this little angel on or devil on our shoulder saying, you can make more, it's a lot easier, there's a career path for you, even though in your gut you're a teacher. You love to be a teacher, and that's what you want to be. So I hear a lot of this kind of tension that individuals go through, and the expression I hate more than anything is, I used to be a teacher. And the people that say that often say it as almost it's kind of a grieving sort of notion.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
People don't want to leave teaching.
Yep.
They don't.
And I would also say that there are a lot of people who want to go into teaching, they don't know how to get there, or they don't have enough information. There are certainly, the teacher pay has been coming up in the last couple of years. Things are starting to get better. We have fit leaders who are starting to advocate for specific actionable items. As that happens, what can we do to sort of recruit those folks who are sort of on the edge of saying, maybe I can get into the profession?
Well, we have to show the way and make it easier to do. One idea I've had, and I'm saying this to Representative Horn while he's sitting here, I'm not looking at him, but one thing that we do, a model that we use in other professions that I think might be interesting to try in teaching, is why don't we make teacher prep 25% more affordable by having a 3-year program and then your practicum in a school district in a job for which you are paid, and to really cement those relationships between our universities and our school districts so that it's a good value. I mean, there's something in it for you. You get a college education and a job more quickly, and we do these sorts of things in engineering and other professions. But I think that would be a heck of a value proposition. Not that we expect people to stay in teaching forever and always. We love it when they do. But, I mean, we've got to try some innovative things to show people the way and to make it attractive to do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Does that sound good to you? I heard some snaps in the back.
Yeah, because teachers, I mean, school districts need teachers. You all need to teaching and getting a college education needs to be affordable. It's kind of a win-win. It's
kind of a win-win.
It'll cost a little money, but of course it will.
And good value.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Everyone can read because a teacher taught them how to read.
Right.
So, well, if you don't mind, I'm going to open it up to
Sure,
questions. I know we have a few university folks here. We have lots of teachers.
See a few universities.
Anyone have any questions for President Spellings?
We're at the end of the day.
I know.
Okay, I do love the there's somebody over.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
You were getting ready to say something.
No.
First of all, thank you for being here. I just wanted to get your perspective. Those of us who are on the front lines of hiring have seen a tremendous increase in the need to hire non-traditional candidates. So the model you just referenced would work perfectly for traditional education candidates, which of course we want loads of those. But is there anything that you would speak to regarding your perspective due to the increase in non-traditional candidates into the role of teacher?
Well, thank you for that. One of the things I think we're going to need to do is stop thinking of teaching as a one-time event with a kind of person who wants to consider conditions of work that are 190-day contract, X hours to Y hours, this kind of monolithic approach. And one of the things that when I was in the Bush administration, we proffered this idea and got a little seed money for it and piloted it a little bit is, kind of this notion of, bringing people, experts into our classrooms in kind of an adjunct sort of way. I know that label maybe connotes, negative feelings, but if we can teach, why can't we teach NASA scientists to teach 2 sections of physics at a high school level and to do it for 1 semester and then come back in the fall semester of the next year? So more of an a la carte model of how we engage talent in our communities, especially in those high need fields that we have such a hard time finding folks for. So when I hear people who are baby boomers who have lots to give, who want to teach, they get worn out because it's too complicated to go back into. And we lose out because they're talented, they want to give, and we need them. So let's figure out ways to, have more a la carte modular options for NASA scientists to come into our classrooms. Yes, they need preparation. I'm not saying we're going to stick somebody who doesn't know anything about pedagogy in front of a room of students, but we can do that.
In our breakout session, most of the small groups chose to focus on school leadership. So we kind of felt that that was one of our most important barriers and one of our most difficult ones to overcome. Do you see the UNC system thinking about how to train leaders, principals, and do you see like that shift coming and improving the leadership programs that our principals are going through?
We absolutely must, and obviously it's been a focus for this organization. Earlier this year, I commissioned some research around, our colleges of education and how good of a job we were doing with respect to educating teachers as it relates to literacy. And we looked under the hood, as I euphemistically called it, and we need to do that with school leadership as well. We found some interesting things on literacy, I'll tell you. Little too many, and there's Ellen back there. So, there were too often kind of random acts of kindness and approaches where we expect a, 19-year-old undergraduate to chart their own path through, to and through a teaching credential, as opposed to, more guided of pathway or whatever. I don't know the right terminology, but we kind of leave it up to people to kind of pick from a smorgasbord of offerings to get into the classroom. And I'm not sure that's the best way to make sure that we have, educators who have the richest base in research-based practices, in this case, in literacy. So I think we need to look under the hood and on principal prep is the punchline.
Jason. And could you introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So my name is Jason Terrell with Profound Gentlemen. I had a question around diversity when it comes to like the University of North Carolina teaching like education preparation programs. So how are you guys being responsive to, I guess, the increased student demographic and making sure teachers represent that and reflect that demographic? Are there any initiatives or any recruitment strategies that you guys have taken systematically?
Well, as you know, we have, we've seen declines in folks entering the teaching profession, period. And clearly that's true, with every demographic. And we can do better and we can do more. And we have to make it, again, attractive for especially men of color to go into our classrooms and to make it an attractive value proposition for them. So it's certainly a topic for us. I'm open to ideas of what you would want us to do with respect to recruiting candidates like that.
And it's in your strategic plan.
And of course, it's in our strategic plan. One thing I want to mention, and this might be a little tacky to say, but our friends in the university world, are passionate about social justice. But to me, the best social justice program you can have is, preparing and highlighting and making mission critical teacher preparation and educator preparation as a hallmark of your value proposition. Many of our institutions were founded as teacher colleges. And so this is something that I would say this if she were sitting here. It bugs me that our flagship, you cannot get a baccalaureate degree and a teaching credential at our world-class flagship university. So, I don't want them to talk about social justice until they get a baccalaureate program to prepare teachers. It sends a signal that says our best and brightest kids shouldn't come here to seek teaching as a profession. They should go elsewhere. And, they're working on it, but I think, the medium is the message, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I was giving a presentation on that particular campus, and I had all of the Army cadet students, the Army ROTC students, and someone raised his hand and said, I don't know how to become a teacher. My fraternity brothers want to be teachers, we want to be teachers, but we don't, and they're sitting on a campus that doesn't have a teaching undergraduate program. So, but the question he asked, and this is foreshadowing, Mark, was how could we have a one-stop shop, right, where I can go, because part of it is just removing barriers. There are pathways in. If your mother was a teacher, you follow that pathway. So removing the barriers that exist and making it as easy as possible. So.
Well, and I want to say, I want to recognize Representative Horn. I think the legislature is more than open to those ideas. Absolutely. And so, you know, they're not hidebound about the way we've done it in the past at all, that I've heard.
Hello. Do I have to introduce my? Okay, I'm
You don't
Allison.
have to, but
I'm Allison
I'll
Redden.
tell her who you are.
I know you do, but I'm Allison Redden. I was a teacher in North Carolina for 5 years, and I'm currently getting my master in public policy at Vanderbilt. And I'm just kind of wondering.
That's a fine school. That
What?
program. I said it's a very fine program.
I got my undergrad at UNC
Okay,
though, so it's okay.
Okay.
Go Heels. My question is just kind of around, similar to the question that was just asked about increasing diversity and enrollment in teacher prep programs. And I know that the North Carolina Promise program
Yes.
is rolling out right now, and I didn't know if there was any conversation or thought process behind I know the schools are geographically in each different region, which I think is great, but I didn't know if there was also intentional thought behind, are there schools that we're applying the NC Promise to that also have high quality teaching programs as well?
Yes. So the three institutions, and you're about to hear a whole lot more about this next week, we're launching a whole campaign around NC Promise and affordability. And so if you don't know about it now, it's $500 a semester at three of our institutions, $2,500 for out-of-state students, and those three institutions are all on border states. UNC Pembroke, founded as a teacher's college, strong teacher prep program, obviously central to their mission. Elizabeth City State University on the Virginia border likewise, and Western Carolina near Tennessee. And so all of those institutions have strong and fulsome teacher prep programs. And so making teacher preparation more affordable is a central part of this. Our early returns on NC Promise is the enrollment's up about 20% at each of those institutions, a little bit more at Western. And it's also been a boon for transfer students. So people who were, had 2 years are coming back because it's now suddenly very affordable. And so the legislature is, I'm sure, going to be very excited to renew it. I hope.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. So.
Hi, Julie Pittman from Rutherford County Schools. I am a teacher. 15 years, I got my undergrad and graduate degree from UNC Chapel Hill.
That's before they got rid of the baccalaureate program.
Well, it is also, I did not get my degree in education. I came in lateral entry after 10 years in a different field.
Good, thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. I love it. I love my job. I wonder what value you might see in partnering with districts who have teachers in the classrooms as a way to enrich professional development. We've talked a lot about recruitment and retention, and the focus has been on recruitment, but in partnering with districts that that would need some quality professional development from the university system would go a long way to build leaders in the school system, would also be a really good way to recruit quality teacher candidates because they would see a two-way street between the schools and the university system and would see some consistent support in the future.
No question. And I don't think we do enough to really listen to our consumer, that the folks who are going to hire our graduates. And we don't have the right kind of incentives really built into our model. This is going to sound crass to say it this way, but why don't we? We don't have to. Here's the teachers, take them or leave them. And so to make those relationships stick, which is why things like we're giving a prospective teacher a job in a school district while that individual is in a preparatory program, and I'm holding them accountable for completion rates, makes some sense. But I think in places where I've observed, and I know this goes on certainly around the state in vigorous ways in lots of places where there's a real partnership between the school district and the prep program, and it's more closely knitted together, and it's fully informed by the needs of the school district, the plans of the school district, the strengths and weaknesses, and so on. So that's a good question for Ellen. We ought to talk with the deans about that. When I told you about this looking under the hood deal with the teacher prep programs, and this report is on our website, you ought to take a look at it. We had everything when the folks went around to interview the deans and so forth, where who's the superintendent? I don't know. I mean, literally deans who said, we don't know who the local superintendent is. That's no good. To people who had very fulsome, talk to them every day kind of relationships and everything in between. So.
Yep. It's a great question. Thank you. You can see why we have great fit leaders.
Yes, you do.
They're terrific.
Do you have to be fit to be a fit leader? It looks like y'all are fit enough to be fit leaders.
Well, we really believe, right? We believe that North Carolina can be first in teaching, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And with your help, I know you're on board with that. So I think I know that we can do this. So can you please thank President Spellings for
Brenda.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So cute.
What do we women do, right?
I know,
When we have to
exactly.
do-
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, are you getting